Welcome back to the John Fredericks Show. Time now, 7:37. You're on with Colonel Mike and Dr. Michael Scheuer of Mission Impossible. Good morning, Dr. Scheuer.
Good morning, Colonel.
And I guess we have our guest on the line. Is that Terry Jarrett, Mike? Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, guys. Good to be with you today.
Hey, thanks for coming back.
Good morning.
We haven't spoken to you in a while. How's everything going?
Everything's been going great. The outlook for coal is looking a lot brighter than it did before the election.
Is that right?
That is right.
Well, let me just say, I'm looking at your piece.
Numbers just came out.
Okay, tell me.
Coal production is up about 19% for the year.
Wow.
Of course, it was down a lot the last few years, so it's not reached the levels that it once was, but production is up. Use of coal for electricity production is up. It was running about 30% nationwide the last couple of years, and it's expected to reach 32% by 2017. So President Trump's policies of putting coal on a level playing field with the other sources of energy is making a difference.
So we could say Trump digs coal, right?
Trump digs coal. I think that's great, yes.
That was a sign they had when he came down to West Virginia and met with Governor Jim Justice, who became a Republican that day. He changed his party affiliation just a couple of weeks ago, right, Mike?
Yeah. How many jobs has that created, sir? Or restored, I suppose?
It's at this point, I know some mines have opened in West Virginia. As a matter of fact, I think at least one mine is opened. Production is up in West Virginia, according to an article I read just this morning, at that 19% level that I quoted earlier for the nation. So we're probably talking hundreds of jobs at this point, and hopefully thousands of jobs as we move forward in the next couple of years.
Are American companies the primary consumers of American coal, or is it an export product too?
It's actually both. Yes,
it's both?
You make a great point there. Imports are also trending upward to places like China and India and Asia, which still continues to use lots and lots of coal.
Yes, sir.
China has shut down quite a few of their coal plants, and so they're actually buying coal from us now. So things are looking good. There was a plant in Montana, one of the largest plants in the country, about a 1,200 megawatt coal plant, that was slated to be shut down in the next couple of years, and the owner abruptly changed his course here recently and said it's going to stay open for the foreseeable future.
Great. That's good. That's good.
So things are looking good.
Yeah, it's really a nice success story. It's not going to get much play in the mainstream media, but it's a very good story.
Right, absolutely. And these are all numbers from the Energy Information Agency out of the Department of Energy. Yeah. These are government numbers. So it's hard for them to argue that these numbers are just being made up by the coal industry.
Yeah, and it's a very good thing too, because the industry is what is making the success story. It's not government incentives. Indeed, it's the government getting out of the way.
That's an excellent point here. That's really kind of all of the mining industry and the coal industry wanted from President Trump, is to just take off these onerous regulations and let coal compete on a level playing field with natural gas, renewables, nuclear, and the effects of the president's policies, the administration's policies here, is to do that. And as we can see this uptick now in coal, natural gas prices are rising. They fluctuate up and down, but they're currently kind of on the rise, which makes coal even a more attractive alternative to generate electricity. One of the other things that the administration lifted was the moratorium on leases primarily in the western states on federal lands on mining, and the mining there has also, the production has increased out west. So all around, things are promising, but I don't ever expect coal to ever get back to its glory days of many, many years ago. But it still needs to be an important cog in our energy plan.
Well, I would think too, it's a good fallback. If something happens with oil supply or something else,
you got to have it.
You could have coal there. The other thing I think is a terrific thing is that I'm not easily appalled anymore. I guess I'm kind of cynical, but clearly the Obama administration didn't care how many small towns in Ohio and in West Virginia and Kentucky and whatever other coal countries were going to be wiped out by the end of the mines. They didn't care about those people one bit. And I think those people got a little bit of revenge last November.
Oh, absolutely. And that was the perfect example of that was when candidate Hillary Clinton basically said in West Virginia that people were going to lose their jobs and mines were going to close.
Yeah.
Under her energy policy.
Yeah, and she was going to.
She was in a moment of rare honesty. She came out and actually said that in public. So we all knew that. The politicians don't like to talk in those terms usually.
Well, no, they're going to retrain the miners who were making $40 an hour for a $11 an hour job. That's their answer.
Yeah, that was great. I remember exactly that. One of the coal miners basically said to her, "We don't need another government program to train us for a job that pays us half of what we make."
That's
now.
right.
And then bring in somebody from overseas to take that job eventually.
Yeah.
Terry, what do you think about Rick Perry? What's he doing? How's he doing for a job?
Well, I think he is doing a very, very good job. Certainly to date, he directed the Department of Energy to conduct a study on the reliability of the grid and to focus on our baseload generation, which is mainly coal and natural gas and nuclear, to make sure that those are valued properly in the electricity markets so that we can rely on them on an ongoing basis to provide us reliable and affordable electricity. Now, that study is due out, I believe, my sources are telling me by the end of August. So just in a couple of weeks, we should have that report from the Department of Energy.
Yeah, because you did write a piece recently in June regards to the sturdiness of the U.S. power grid.
Right, exactly right. And that's really one of the things I've been talking about for years is, reliability and affordability really is the main policy goal of energy policy. I mean, we need reliable and affordable electricity. Mm-hmm. And if you take coal out of the mix and kill that as an industry, and we take that piece out of our energy strategy, then we're going to have reliability problems because there's nothing there to pick up the slack. Mm-hmm. Renewables can't do it because renewables are intermittent. Natural gas, the prices will fluctuate and you will have problems there. And we don't have the gas pipeline infrastructure in place yet to allow natural gas to, become the major player. And of course, nuclear is having some issues with pricing and keeping those plants open. So we really do need coal.
So it is part of the mix to stay alive.
It's got to be part of the mix. Only a fool would deprive, as you say, the energy grid
Jerry,
of that material.
Terry, what about natural gas? What are we doing? The pipelines are working. Are we building more pipelines? It seems that they're exporting natural gas now, huh?
Yeah, they're increasing imports of natural gas, and they expect to continue to do that. We're the largest natural gas supplier in the world.
Wow.
And it's going to continue. And we're going to continue to use more natural gas. We need an all-of-the-above strategy, and so we do need more natural gas. We need more coal. We need to make sure our nuclear plants are viable, and we need to use renewables, when those make sense in places where they have, and solar, where they have those resources. The problem with the prior administration was the picking of the winners and losers, and basically just trying to kill one part of that industry, which is the coal industry.
Yeah.
So I expect natural gas to continue with the fracking. We have great supplies of it that will last for hundreds of years, and so we do need to utilize it, absolutely.
Yeah. It always struck me, sir, there's the last administrations wanted to depend on coal, or not coal, but wind and solar and which are all they're complements to the power source, power accesses we have, but they're never going to be one of the top 3 players, I wouldn't think, at least not in our lifetime.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we have been adding a lot of renewables in this country for several years. You know, they get the production tax credit and other kind of tax breaks and subsidies that make them more affordable. They wouldn't be without them. And so we've been adding actually a lot to the electric grid, but you know, you're talking about 3-4%.
Yeah.
Where coal is like 30%, natural gas is at 30%, nuclear is at 20%. So you couldn't build enough windmills and solar panels. You'd have them all over every square inch of the United States if they were going to supply 100% of our power.
Terry, on trucking, a couple of years ago, they were speaking about these manufacturers building natural gas engines, which work well in some parts of Asia. Are we advancing with that, or are we going to still stay with the gasoline engine? What do you see for the trucking industry?
Well, I think that is something that definitely needs to be explored, and I know that there is some of that going on. I know that there are some fleets out there that run on natural gas. If you drive the interstates, sometimes you will see a natural gas fueling plant for vehicles. So it's out there. It's not being pushed as much as, say, the electric cars. There's a big lobby for.
But I think the natural gas
cars
is a better feature than the electric, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. It's much more reliable, and you can certainly go long range with a natural gas vehicle rather than an electric vehicle. It's getting the infrastructure in place to do that. I think it's relatively easy to fit an engine for natural gas. So it makes a lot of sense, and I think there are companies that do use total natural gas fleets.
I was one time going to buy one of those cars, natural gas cars, but I had to go like all the way around the Beltway, and it was somewhere Prince George's County to pick up the gas. But I've been in many of them in Southeast Asia where when you're out of the natural gas, it has some kind of a gauge. You flip a switch, and you go to regular gasoline, and you use that for a while until you get back to a natural gas station. And I think it's a lot better than electric, because electric costs are not cheap.
No.
And to plug a car in for 180 miles. If you live on this side near the Beltway, Terry, 180 miles is nothing. I mean, you can eat that up in a day, day and a half. So, I mean, you'll be always constantly plugging in,
Right, I have a drive once a month where I do some work for a client, and I have to drive from Jefferson City, Missouri to Indianapolis, Indiana, which is about a six hour drive, a little over 6 hours. I couldn't make it on an electric car. I'd have to stop. I'd have to leave a day early and stop and charge my car overnight.
Hold on a second, Mike. Is that a comment for Terry? Okay, we got a caller on the line. Hang on, Terry. Den from Chesapeake wants to make a comment. Hi, Den.
Good morning. Good morning. As a former executive engineer with General Motors, your comments about vehicles, natural gas powered vehicles, and so on, caught my attention. Absolutely, positively, the natural gas powered vehicles, proven technology.
Yep.
In fact, I'm going out right now to put the trash out, and here in Chesapeake, there'll be a natural gas powered truck come very shortly to pick up the trash. But in addition to that, relative to the electric vehicle is just a joke. And the reason for that, amongst other things, is that the batteries degrade on the electric vehicles, and anybody who buys one of these vehicles in about 8 years is going to have a white elephant on their hands, because that battery will be gone, and they'll have to replace it, and that will be at least 4, 5, 6. If you have a Tesla, it might be as much as $30,000 or $40,000 to replace that vehicle. Okay?
Really? Well, thank you for that call, Dan. I appreciate it.
Natural gas is it. Okay?
Yeah.
Terry, did you get to hear the caller?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great points there. All spot on. I think the natural gas cars and vehicles make a great idea.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much.
That's very nice. Thank you.
But give us a little bit of background for the listener, Terry. Tell us who you are. I know who you are, but you could tell the listener who you are.
Right. Well, I'm an energy attorney and consultant. I'm a former commissioner of the Missouri Public Service Commission, so I regulate utilities for 6 years. And currently, as I said, I work in the energy industry as an attorney, the regulatory arena, and also do some consulting work on energy matters.
And you write a blog, because I always watch what you're writing. I see it from time to time on different sites like Breitbart and different places, op-ed pieces.
Yes, I blog on energy, Leading Light Energy blog. So look me up on Google, and you can find me there.
Great, thank you.
Terry, can I ask, it's a kind of follow-up on my first couple of questions. Is there an export market that would allow opening new mines?
Oh,
coal?
Absolutely, yeah. That is actually, I believe, going to be another wave in the future for coal here. Obviously, increasing use here in the United States and keeping the current coal plants open that we have that were slated to shut down. But exports are expected to increase as well. The prior administration had really discouraged exports.
Yes.
And, it was very, very hard to get to build new transportation hubs like to export coal or natural gas. But, of course, the new administration has loosened that up, and there's lots of liquefied natural gas hubs that are slated or being planned to be built on the coasts so that exports can be made, and same thing with coal. So that's a very promising market for those resources as well. But the thing that, of course, that I focus my career on is energy consumption here, and
yes,
and that's what's certainly my hope is that we continue to have these policies that again create a level playing field, and coal will be able to compete just fine.
Hey, Terry, we got another call on the phone. Cheryl, are we on there? Oh, okay. I guess she clicked off. Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
No, I was just about finishing up on that. I just think that things are promising, with the current policies in coal, and hopefully this policy will continue in Washington.
Well, that's a very interesting point, sir, because I kind of admire. I do admire Trump and what he's done to get out of the way, but I also admire these guys that own the mines, because if the Democrats get back in power, they're going to try to kill that industry one more time on the basis of their kind of pseudoscience climate change.
Yeah, we need to be very vigilant of the political situation when it comes to the next elections. There's lots of stuff that go on in the media about President Trump, but if you focus on what he is accomplishing for the people, this is a success story.
A big success
of the coal
story.
Industry.
It is. It's across the board, though.
We had someone on yesterday from the Fiscal Times, Liz Peek, who writes for the Times. She's on a lot of different radio stations, radio shows, and she spoke about that. She said he's not getting enough credit for the economy, as well as putting China to the wall, on trade. So what you're saying is right, and maybe that's a blog you could write in the near future.
Yeah, and that's a great idea, and that you triggered another thought in my mind.
I usually do those things.
When we've been talking about using coal for production of electricity, but there is another coal that is used in steel production.
Okay.
And that is way up as well. The mining of coal for steel production is up, and that is a big export for the United States. Exporting that, we can argue that maybe that's not good for the U.S. steel industry to have these big exports out to other countries to make steel, but it just shows that that people are making steel and they're using American coal to do it. And I think President Trump has a plan also for the steel industry, and and getting it revived in this country as well.
Terry, last minute, you got the last word.
Well, again, I'm very optimistic about the way things are going with our energy policy. We appear to have good officials in Washington now with Rick Perry and Scott Pruitt over at the EPA. Appear to be doing good things to make our energy policy very sound and focused on reliable and affordable energy. And coal is certainly an important part of that mix, and things are looking promising on those fronts.
Dr. Scheuer, last word.
The only thing I will say that I'm happy is gone about coal is I don't have to shovel coal into the furnace with my dad anymore, like I did 50 years ago.
Kerry, thank you so much for coming on the John Fredericks Show.
Guys, always enjoy, love your show, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Terry.
Bye now.